Welcome back to our REIQA Real Estate Education Program. Be sure you started with the welcome video and have already completed sections 1 through 6. In section 7, we will cover all about the title and closing process and go over the different types of closing costs, different types of deeds, and other title and closing information. Please subscribe to our channel, like this video, and ask any follow-up questions in the group. Our experienced investors will respond throughout their days to help you. Check out our website at REIQA.com and the links in the description below for more real estate help, tools, and resources. Now, let's begin section 7. In the previous video, we covered the general closing process. Now, let's discuss more in depth about closing. Let's begin by discussing what are closing costs. Closing costs are the expenses over and above the property's sale price that buyers and sellers usually incur to complete a real estate transaction. Costs incurred typically include title searches, title insurance, surveys, attorney opinion fees, abstract updating, taxes, deed recording fees, and if using a lender, may also include loan origination fees, discount points, appraisal fees, and credit report charges. Closing costs occur anytime the title of the property is transferred from a seller to a buyer. The total dollar amount of closing costs depends on the city, county, and state the property is being sold and the property's value being assigned. Closing costs typically run between 2 to 5% of the purchase price and may be paid by either the seller, the buyer, or split depending on the contract terms. Title insurance protects the buyer from any past contractors making claims against the property, and if using financing, title insurance also protects the lender from claims against the property. Local governments charge recording fees and taxes to record the sale of the property. These transfer taxes vary from state to state and county to county. All of the closing costs will be itemized on the HUD statement sent to all parties a few days prior to closing. Next, let's cover all the types of real estate deeds. A deed is a legal document used to transfer ownership of property from one party to another. There are 6 common types of deeds, and each serves a specific legal purpose. The first type of deed is known as a quitclaim deed. This is used to transfer property between familiar parties, such as family members or even divorced spouses. That's because, unlike other types of deeds, a quitclaim deed offers very little legal protection to the new owner. Next, the most common used deed would be a warranty deed. Warranty deeds come with different levels of protection and are split into 2 distinct categories. General warranty deeds, typically used in residential real estate transactions, guarantees that the seller has the full legal right to sell the property and that the property is completely free and clear of all debts, liens, or other encumbrances. Special warranty deeds only protects a buyer against any issues or claims that might have arisen only during the time the seller owned the property. The third type of deed would be mortgage deeds, which is signed between a homeowner and a lender, placing a lien on the property if the loan isn't repaid. This deed secures property as collateral with the house serving as security in the event of a default. The fourth type of deed is called a deed of trust. A deed of trust transfers the title of an asset from a trustor to the trustee for the benefit of a third party, known as the beneficiary. This is most often used when there's money being loaned against a property's value to secure the lender's protection. Fifth, there's grant deeds. A grant deed is a specific deed type that transfers the interest in a property from the seller to the buyer in exchange for a previously agreed upon price, but doesn't offer the buyer legal protection against any title defects. Finally, we have bargain and sale deeds. These are rarely ever used because it offers no guarantee that the property is free of debts or liens. It only states that the seller is the title holder and little else. Next, we'll discuss using a double close versus a simultaneous close. As we covered in a previous video about wholesaling, there's 2 ways to do it, either by assigning your contract or by doing a double close. There's also what's known as a simultaneous close, which can be a wet or dry double close. There's a difference between a double close and simultaneous close, or a wet or dry double close. I think many confuse these terms. Some states are considered wet closing states and allow simultaneous closing, where funds from transaction B to C can fund transaction A to B, but some states do not allow this and are considered dry closing states. If in a dry state, you have to close with your own funds or use transactional funding before the second transaction. With a wet close, you have the first contract from the seller to you and a second contract from you to the end buyer, and the funds from the end buyer simultaneously funds all the transactions. Typically, in a simultaneous close, there are only one set of closing costs, other than the cost of the second deed and filing fees. Now, with a dry close, you still have both contracts, seller to you and you to end buyer, but you must close on the first transaction from the seller to you and will need the full funding to cover the purchase price and closing costs. Then you have a totally separate second closing on the other contract from you to the end buyer, with the end buyer's funds funding that close. Most times, this will require two sets of closing costs, one from you on the first transaction and one from the end buyer on their transaction. It's different based on your state, and just because one title company says they don't do them does not necessarily mean it's not allowed. You may want to check around with other wholesalers in your area and other escrow agents. But the only way to prevent your seller and buyer from knowing how much you make is to double close, meaning close on your deals instead of doing an assignment. If you run into other questions about closing, ask your closing agent. They're there to help you through the process. That concludes this section. In the next section, we will go in great detail about all the different funding sources for real estate. Please subscribe to our channel, like the video, and ask any follow-up questions in the group. Our experienced investors will respond throughout their days to help you. Check out our website at REIQA.com and the links in the description below for more real estate help, tools, and resources.